Sure, I apologize for the technical difficulties. So I'd like to thank you very much for this opportunity to talk with you about ETS's work on behavioral assessment of personal skills and qualities for MBA programs. And in fact, our work extends beyond just MBA programs, but I know that is a primary focus for today's audience. So my colleague Patrick may be joining us. I apologize, we're connecting in from the United States, and sometimes there are some technical challenges that we do face. So let me first start with providing some background, which is in the context of other types of information that are available to make an admissions decision, which consists of items like personal statements or statements of purpose, letters of recommendation, resumes or CVs, and interviews. These types of information are non-standardized, so submissions can vary widely from applicant to applicant, and they're often subjective and open to reviewers' interpretations and biases. Those with fewer socioeconomic resources can also be disadvantaged, and these items can be highly coached or trained. They can be edited, and they even can be faked or misrepresented. If, for example, the applicant herself or himself can write the letter of recommendation. So there are a number of drawbacks from using these types of tools. In response to these challenges and others, ETS has been developing the ETS PSQ. A PSQ stands for Personal Skills and Qualities. It is a behavioral tool designed to measure and to develop students' social, emotional, and self-management or soft skills that are important for academic and workplace success. PSQ measures 14 dimensions, and it relies on a preference question format in which the respondents are shown a triple of 3 behavioral statements, and they are asked which is most like them and which is least like them. So let me see if I can depict for you what an item or a question from the PSQ assessment would look like. For example, someone may see 3 statements together. I am an extremely loyal person versus I enjoy watching documentaries and educational programs, especially about unfamiliar subjects, versus I find myself looking at my phone multiple times during long presentations or meetings. And one is to choose which of these 3 statements is most like them and which of those 3 statements is least like them. This format is called a triplet, and it is a triplet because there are 3 possible choices. And based on the nature of these statements, it is extremely difficult, if not impossible, for the person taking PSQ to figure out which is going to be the statement least preferred by an admissions committee or most preferred by an admissions committee. And so it is extremely difficult for the individual to game the system, so to speak. And that is what makes PSQ so incredibly useful, because with a lot of other similar soft skills or personality-based assessments, it is very transparent what the best choices are. And so people will fake their responses to look more impressive than they in fact are. With PSQ, that really is not achievable. And so you know that you're getting an accurate picture of the candidate. PSQ measures 14 dimensions: perseverance, leadership, resiliency, creativity, collaboration, responsibility, self-discipline, curiosity, even-temperedness, sociability, organization, trust, abidance, and artistic appreciation. And we can follow up and provide definitions for those various dimensions, but the names do, I think, a very good job of conveying the types of qualities that PSQ is measuring. One of the fundamental questions we are asked about the value of PSQ is what it offers. It is customizable. So an institution would use only those PSQ dimensions and composites or combinations of dimensions that are most important to the institution. As I mentioned, PSQ is resistant to faking responses to look more impressive than one in fact really is. And it is also easy to use. It takes only about 30 minutes to respond to these 60 triple questions, and one will be able to take PSQ even by smartphone. There are two value propositions for using PSQ. One is admissions and the other is student development. In admissions, research shows that PSQ should predict or improve prediction of which applicants will most likely succeed in a program. And research shows that these kinds of measures like PSQ can predict valued outcomes such as grades, degree progress, leadership, beyond what prior grades, undergraduate grade point average being one measure of them, or a standardized test, GRE, GMAT, etc., can predict. Also, in certain contexts, at least in a US context, research shows that these types of personality-based measures can increase diversity when combined with prior grades or standardized test scores. For the student development context, PSQ can increase preparation for enrolled students for academic and workplace success. It can make institutions' graduates more attractive to employers, and it can make graduates who continue their education more attractive to other educational institutions. PSQ is based on a long research history that dates back at least until the 1950s. In the 1950s, research began showing that forcing someone to choose among a paired comparison had a great potential to address the ongoing problem of people faking their responses to look more impressive. Now, we're now today using triple statements, but originally this research was being conducted with a pair of statements. In the 1990s, research began showing that these types of soft skills qualities that are more narrowly defined predict important academic and workplace outcomes and allow the creation of useful combinations of facets or composites. In the 2000s, there was an improvement in methodology so that statistical methods could allow one to administer psychometrically sound pairwise comparison assessments. In the 2010s or 20-teens, triples, the current format, was introduced as a more efficient way than the use of pair statements to measure these kinds of socio-emotional or soft skills qualities. The triples, they collect more information per question than does or did the old pairs format. And so triples were considered a more efficient way to measure these skills, a faster way to measure these skills so that the assessment is shorter. In 2014, ETS partnered with the Yale School of Management to develop PSQ, then called Facets. And that work is described in Poets and Quants, BizEd, and the Financial Times. And we could certainly provide more information from those sources if you wish. And then this year, ETS began partnering with a number of pilot institutions, including many international graduate business schools, to further develop PSQ. People will often ask us, what do we mean by this concept of PSQ composites that we offer in addition to the 14-level granular PSQ dimensions? If you think of each of the PSQ dimensions, these 14 dimensions, as a piece of paint on a painter's palette, just as the paint on the painter's palette can be combined to create a portrait, these various 14-level granular PSQ dimensions can be combined statistically to create these PSQ composites. We create these composites because they can be more stable, statistically speaking,
Dr. David?
Yes?
Dr. David, sorry to interrupt you here, but I would request you to please wrap up your session in 2 minutes.
Will do. Absolutely.
Thank you.
So we can create these composites based on the big 5 factors of personality, such as extroversion, conscientiousness, openness, and we can create others as well, such as communication skills and perseverance, teamwork. So we've been working with institutions of higher education to further develop PSQ, including 8 business schools, Two are in Asia, one is in the United States, one is in Europe, and one is in South America. As part of this set of studies, there's no cost to schools or their students. We administer PSQ, provide scores to schools, which can provide scores to students. We're seeking feedback from institutions and from students, and we're collecting and validating how well PSQ is working. We already have some solid evidence that PSQ, in fact, is valid for making admissions decisions at various institutions of higher education, including graduate business schools. And I should note that we are working on further developing PSQ both as an admissions tool, as well as a tool to be used for further developing the soft skills of your enrolled students. And we are happy to talk with you further about this initiative. Our URL for more information is https://www.ets.org/PSQ. And that does wrap up my presentation. And of course, I'm happy to take any questions.